These two smartphones, the Google Pixel 7a and the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G, both retail for about $380 right now, which is currently 560,000 naira, but for different memory configurations. 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage for the Pixel 7a, while here you get 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of internal storage. And that's for the same amount. Now the question is, which should you buy right now for $380? Let me help you find out the right answer, and so without taking much of your time, yo guys, let's get started. For the same price here, not only do you get double the storage on the Redmi, but you also get a protective case and 120 watts fast charger as bonuses within the box of this smartphone. The only thing aside the phone itself which you get from this one is the cable and this USB A to C adapter. So more value for money as far as I'm concerned with the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G. When it comes to the design here and build quality, this is mainly subjective. I personally love the smaller device here, probably because I don't have large hands, and the form factor on the Pixel 7a. Of course, both have a plastic feel to them, but you notice that the Pixel device here has an aluminum frame and plastic back, while the Redmi here has this plastic frame and glass back. The Redmi here is obviously bigger in size, and both of these devices do not have a headphone jack. They have the power buttons and the volume rocker keys to the right. You know, Pixel has this awkward placement of the volume keys on their devices. Both are USB Type-C smartphones, stereo speakers, and as far as SIM, they both have dual SIM support. But the Redmi here has support for eSIM, that is one SIM and an eSIM or two physical SIMs on this device. While the Pixel 7a here supports a SIM and an eSIM on this smartphone. Now these are both 5G smartphones, by the way. There's an IR blaster for electronics on the Redmi, which is a plus if you ask me, and as far as protection you have IP68 on the Redmi and IP67 on the Pixel 7a. And that means the Note can be pushed a little further as far as water resistance. For the build and design here, both look stunning. Personally, I love the design on the 7a from Pixel, but the Note 13 takes the win here for build quality because of the size, the bells and whistles, all you get on this smartphone. For the biometric sensor you have here, you have the optical in-display fingerprint scanners, and I prefer the one on the 7a because of the placements. I feel like the fingerprint sensor on the Note 13 Pro Plus 5G could have been pushed a little further, maybe pushed a little higher. When it comes to the audio, you get this dual stereo speaker configuration on both of them. While the speakers on both of these devices are impressively good, I somehow prefer the speakers on the Pixel even with the smaller chassis, which should have been an acoustic disadvantage. When it comes to the displays on here, the Note 13 Pro Plus here has an amazingly beautiful panel. Starting with a 6.7-inch AMOLED panel against 6.1 OLED, you have 120Hz refresh rate against 90Hz here. You get 1000 nits at peak brightness on the Pixel, while the Note goes up to 1800 nits at the maximum of peak brightness. And that means you can use this better outdoors. While both devices here have support for HDR10, the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus has Dolby Vision, which isn't available on the Pixel 7a. Of course, a shame to the Pixel here, but that's not a deal breaker. Resolutions here are 1080 by 2400 for the Pixel, which is Full HD Plus, and you get 1220 by 2712 pixels for the Redmi, which is almost QHD, with a higher pixel density and screen to body ratio. Now the list goes on. You have Gorilla Glass 3 for the Pixel and Gorilla Victus on the Redmi. Overall, the display on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G is bigger, better, and actually the one you should get if display is all that matters to you. Now, things take a turn when you consider the processors on here. The Pixel here comes with the Tensor G2 5nm chipset, while the Redmi here has the Dimensity 7200 Ultra, a 4nm counterpart. For everyday use, you might not notice the difference between the smartphones, except you push them, but then again, it's not that much different. I also did notice that the Pixel 7a here got reasonably warm on average use, more than I noticed on the Redmi Note. For everyday use, would you really notice the difference between the smartphones? Not actually. But the better processor on here comes within the Pixel 7a, and that also affects the camera, but I'll talk about that in a bit. And before that, these units here have 8 gigs of RAM, the Pixel is 128 gigs of storage, and the Redmi doubles that for the same price. Both of them are UFS 3.1 as far as the speeds, and you can't expand the memories on here. The USB ports on these devices are different. You have the faster USB 3.2 on the Pixel and USB 2 on the Redmi, both of which are USB Type-C. Since we're still on speed, you can see the Antutu and Geekbench scores to give you an idea of the workings of the smartphones. Also, kindly hit on that like and subscribe button, as that will make my day. Thanks. Casual gaming seems to be okay with the smartphones, nothing quite different for casual gaming except the slightly warmer Pixel 7a after some time of use. Now, both of these devices come out of the box with Android 13. While the Pixel has stock Android here, you get MIUI and Android 13 on the Redmi, MIUI 14 actually. And stock Android is one of the best Android flavors you can try. For updates, the Google Pixel 7a here will receive Android OS updates up to 2026 and security patches up to 2028. And this isn't exactly the case for the Redmi device here. You should expect OS updates up to 2025 for the Redmi device. So for longevity, the Pixel 7a is your guy. Now let's talk about the cameras. For the numbers, the Pixel here has a 64 megapixel sensor and you have 200 megapixel main sensor here. You have a 12 megapixel ultra-wide on the Pixel against 8 megapixel ultra-wide on the Redmi. You have an additional 2 megapixel macro lens on the Redmi, which isn't available on the Pixel, so more cameras from the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G. Now when it comes to the front-facing cameras, you have a 13 megapixel camera for the Pixel and a 16 megapixel front-facing camera for the Redmi. Now don't let the smaller numbers and the fewer lenses on the Pixel fool you. This is arguably the best photo camera on a smartphone right now, all thanks to Google's super complicated computational photography. Starting with the photo of a book and the flower here, at first you might not notice the difference, but the Redmi here has a warmer look in temperature, while the Pixel has this accurate white balance. When you zoom into these photos, you notice that the text here on the book is sharper on the Pixel. On this side, you notice that the Redmi tends to push the grain to an unrealistic color, while the Pixel is more natural. Zooming into the science text here, you also get the sharper details in text on the Pixel. Over to this next water block sign, the Redmi looks a little washed out, while the Pixel here gives you a better contrast and saturated photo. This theme continues with the photos on these devices. Now let's talk about the human photo on here. You can see that the Pixel has this better skin tone, exposure is on point, and you can easily post these photos from the Pixel 7a to your social media platforms without having to do a lot in post. Now for this photo, you can see this tree. The Pixel has more accurate representation, and the Redmi replaced the color of the green with something that's out of this world. Although I actually prefer the color from the Redmi on this one. These photos here are really close. Actually, in fact, the Redmi dials the exposure better for this photo, but you can fix that in post for the Pixel device. Now for the ultra-wide shot of this same photo, the Pixel wins yet again with better shadows and saturation and also contrast. Now let's talk about the portrait photos on these devices. Even though the Pixel has the better coloring and skin tones, it feels like the Redmi did a better job with the shoulder separation from the background, while the Pixel here focused more on the hair separation from the background. The selfie cameras maintain about the same features, and the Pixel does a super better job as far as photos for this camera. Now when it comes to the video side of things, starting with the selfies, you get the better front-facing camera video from the Pixel, colors are rich, you have good contrast, and especially the amazing skin tones in comparison. Also, the Pixel can in fact go up to 4K in resolution, while the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus maxes out at 1080p. Now both of the smartphones can do up to 4K in resolution for the rear cameras, and at this point, if you guess that the Pixel has the better video quality, you were right. So no doubt, the better camera phone here is the Google Pixel 7a. While you get a 4385 mAh battery on the Pixel 7a, the Note 13 Pro Plus 5G has a whopping 5000 mAh battery capacity. No doubt the Redmi will last you till the end of the day, but the Pixel takes time to learn your use pattern and also adapt to how you use the smartphone. Honestly, I still use the Pixel 7a till about 4 to 5 p.m. before thinking of topping the charge on that smartphone. So the Note wins here, but it is quite close. I think that's because the Note has to power a larger panel with 120Hz refresh rate and also a brighter panel, while this is a little dimmer, lower refresh rate and smaller. Both have support for super fast charge. This one here, the Redmi has a 120 watt fast charger within the box and charges from 0 to 100 in about 25 minutes. While the Pixel 7a supports 18 watt fast charge without a charger in the box, and it takes about 2 hours to charge from 0 to 100. Also, there's support for wireless charging on this Pixel 7a, which is not available on the Redmi device. So objectively and also subjectively, I'll go with the Google Pixel 7a, reasons being that you get the better camera here by miles and a slightly better performance, and it has this better design in my opinion, and it's quite handy. I like the small device. You also get more updates into the future with the Google Pixel 7a. In the Redmi's defense here, for the same price you get more accessories, double the storage, better build quality, better battery life and charging speeds, and an almost similar performance experience. I actually see no reason to go with the Redmi in my use case, since I prefer smaller devices with good processing, software updates and great camera. But is that the same for you? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and also check out my reviews on these devices here. Cuídate.